Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you once again from snowy Utah, where it is 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting ready to go skiing shortly. But big news overnight, Chuck Cook, and if you're not following him on Twitter and YouTube, definitely check him out. But anyway, he was very kind to post for us several the update for FSD beta 11.3.1. Yes, it actually has gone out to him and a bunch of the other OG testers. This is really, really huge news. I'm going to expand this, and unfortunately, when I do on Twitter, it blocks out my image of myself no matter what I try to do, so I'm not going to worry about that because you don't care what I look like anyway, especially in the morning. Forgive my voice, it's very early in the morning, and I'm going to do the best I can with this because it's pretty early. I haven't had a chance to really go through this, and there are a lot of big updates. Now I'm going to go over the OTA part of the update first, which is the recall part from NHTSA, and if you haven't seen my previous video about that, then I'll put a link to that up here and also at the end of this video so you can check it out. It's an important update, and there's actually one really kind of super sad piece of news that goes along with that, and I will get there shortly. And then I'm just going to briefly look at what's going on with the 11.3.1 update, which is significantly different than the 11.3 update notes that were there before. Probably going to have to do a dedicated video about that when I've had more chance to think about it, because like I said, pretty early in the morning, I'm on vacation, my brain is only halfway working, so here we go. So anyway, let us go here and expand this. So we're going to start with the over-the-air update recall. And so again, this is in accordance with a recent recall campaign, blah, blah, with the US and another one for Canada. Tesla is making improvements to the following specific behaviors within full self-driving beta. And the TLDR part of this is that basically Tesla was required to do an over-the-air recall update, whatever you want to call it, to every Tesla, 363,000-ish Teslas in the United States and Canada that are driving full self-driving beta because of issues that could, quote, lead to higher risk of crashes. So anyway, like I said, you can watch that other video at the end. So there's I believe 4, if I'm remembering correctly, major updates. Number 1, improved decision logic to proceed through or stop at certain yellow lights. So that was originally they said, solving the problem for stale yellow lights and stuff like that, but here we get into a lot more detail about all of this. So stopping at certain yellow lights by modeling the decision as a trade-off framework that considers estimated deceleration required to stop, time to enter and exit the intersection, and the distance traversed across the intersection before the light transitions to red. This should make yellow light handling more natural and human-like. So basically, it's kind of doing what we humans, or will be doing with this new version, what we humans do, which is the light turns yellow, you do an estimation in your head of like, how many seconds will it take me to enter the intersection? How big is this intersection? That makes a big difference, right? If you have a relatively small intersection, you get through relatively quickly, so you can go through a yellow light that may have just turned yellow, no big deal. But if it's one of those gigantic intersections where there's like multiple lanes across the other direction, and it might take you a long time to go through that intersection, especially at the speed you're driving, that makes a difference too. So it's modeling all of that stuff, like it says, as a trade-off between the let's call it the discomfort of decelerating rapidly, and also potentially the danger, because you don't just want to slam the brakes on because a person behind you might hit you as well. So there's a lot of yellow lights are actually quite complicated for people to negotiate. So anyway, it looks like what they're trying to do is negotiate this better. Previously, I have found that the Tesla is, let's call it, rather assertive about going through yellow lights. It's like, yeah, I can make this and it'll do it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, it's going to try it. And it hasn't gone through a red on me yet, but it has gone through some pretty stale yellow lights, ones that have been yellow for quite a while. So anyway, so that's an interesting aspect. Number 2, improved longitudinal slowdown control profile when leading up to stop sign intersections to make the overall maneuver feel more perceptible and natural. So this has to do with Tesla's not stopping adequately, or people not believing that they're fully stopped. I guess this number 2 actually gives us more of an indication of what it is exactly that we humans are missing from the current version. So what happens is, originally, of course, Tesla's full self-driving beta would allow people to do what's called California stops, which is basically, if it's safe, if there's no other cars in the intersection, slow down to mostly stopped, roll through and keep going, which is the way most human beings in the United States at least operate. So unfortunately, NHTSA is not happy with that, and they said that they had to stop. So Tesla then stopped, but the car apparently did not stop long enough or perceptibly enough for them to be happy. So I imagine what's going to happen is we're going to get that weird little like thumpy braking thing. So what this is, longitudinal, of course, is the front back motion. So I expect what will happen is it will brake slightly more aggressively, stop more perceptibly, and then accelerate out. So you will feel the stop more, which I think is going to be incredibly annoying. But such is life. It's really sucky when you get involved in government entities that just don't understand how people actually drive. So I expect this one will actually be unfortunate just in the sense of the way that we're feeling that. Who knows? Maybe it will actually be a nice thing and we'll know, but I generally am like, I'd rather not feel the stop than to feel kind of a thumpy feeling as the car stops. So anyway, the next one is really a bummer at the end of this one. Number 3, improve the Tesla speed adjustment when entering certain speed zones by allowing for earlier control for detected speed limit signs, excuse me. So I don't know if this is going to include the things. So again, this would be you're going 55 miles an hour and you hit a 45 mile an hour speed limit zone or whatever. Generally speaking, the going down part, I don't think it matters about going up. But so there's usually a sign that says 45 mile an hour zone coming. So I don't know if the full self-driving beta is going to detect the upcoming, the thing that says 45 mile an hour speed limit coming up and start to slow down there, or if it's just going to more early detect the actual sign itself and begin to aggressively slow down. Hopefully what it will do is actually utilize the upcoming speed limit signs so that it can actually kind of decelerate more naturally. But anyway, I'm not exactly sure. So anyway, this is important. This is one of the problems that I've had and several other people have had about Teslas is they're very unaggressive about slowing down to the proper speed limit so that you can easily, not only dangerous, but again, you could get a ticket for going too quickly under those conditions. Anyway, the assertiveness of the response when slowing down for detected speed limit signs is determined by the current speed and its difference to the speed indicated by the detected sign. So basically, if you're traveling a lot faster than the detected sign, it will be more aggressive about slowing down. I believe that's what that's saying. Added a visual glow behind the speed limit icon in the user interface to alert the driver when the vehicle's set speed exceeds the detected speed limit by more than 50%. Wow. I guess that would be if you were doing 55 and you entered a 25 mile an hour speed zone or something and you were going double the speed limit. But hopefully people are not doubling the speed limit. But anyway, that sounds like what they're doing is they're creating more visual type of information for people. And then this is the really big bummer here. Finally, the option for an absolute speed limit offset in FSD beta was removed, and I'm going to cry about that the whole time. Only the percent-based offset will be available, and that really sucks because honestly, the absolute speed limit offset is the way to go almost all the time. And that's just a huge bummer. That's actually going to make full self-driving beta, for me at least, a lot less useful. I don't know what to say about that. All I can say is I'm crying about that one because that's going to make it significantly less useful. I generally have just an absolute offset, and I'm very comfortable with that, and it's... curse NHTSA for making this happen because that's really a big bummer. That's going to make a lot of people's lives kind of miserable because basically that means if you're, let's say you do a 10% offset, that means in a 25 zone, you're going 2.5 miles an hour over the speed limit. So yeah, for safety or whatever, I guess that is good, but generally speaking, people tend to go about 5 over generally all the time. So again, they're just ignoring the way that human beings actually drive and putting in laws that are kind of silly. So anyway, big bummer for that, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be, I guess. So anyway, moving forward here, getting to section 4 here. Okay, so, and then number 4, excuse me, sorry again, early morning, very cold weather. Updated the behavior for certain scenarios where the Tesla may maneuver from a turn lane to continue traveling straight. These maneuvers will now be treated as a lane change where the turn indicator is used to alert other drivers of the Tesla's intent. So I had seen these notifications before for this one, but it hadn't been very clear about what's going on. But apparently what the Tesla would do would just kind of move straight through the intersection from a turn lane, and I guess without alerting people, without actually turning on the turn signal. And that obviously would be a significant problem. So you don't really want to You don't want to do that without alerting other drivers that you're going to be changing lanes. So this sounds like a good idea. Again, I haven't had this personal problem with this. I haven't noticed any issues with that myself. But for people who have, I'm sure this will be a very, very good thing to have in there as well. And then finally, again, as a reminder, the driver is responsible for vehicle operation even when FSD beta is engaged. In other words, it's a level 2 autonomy, not anything higher than that. You must constantly supervise the road, keep your hands on the wheel, and be ready to intervene to maintain safety. So let's also go through here to one other thing. I think I'm going to skip over today the 11.3.1 release notes, because I will do that tonight and probably release it tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that one, just because it's going to take a while for me to digest all that. But the one other thing is this cabin camera. So the cabin camera above your rear view mirror can now determine driver inattentiveness and provide you with audible alerts to remind you to keep your eyes on the road when autopilot is engaged. The can is an interesting word. I don't know if that means that it's user adjustable, that you can turn it off if you want to, but I believe that it's just always on at this point. Camera images do not leave the vehicle itself, which means the system cannot save or transmit information unless you enable data sharing. I believe if you generally enable data sharing, which means that you share your FSD beta experiences with Tesla, that includes the cabin camera, but I'm not positive about that. To change your data settings, go to this stuff, control software data sharing on your car's touchscreen. So anyway, it would be nice eventually. I actually tweeted to Elon Musk and asked him if he would be willing to, after turn this back on again. Let's see if I can reduce this. There we go. You can see me again. Anyway, I tweeted to Elon Musk, not that he cares about me, but it would be really lovely after full self-driving beta 11 gets to the point where it's actually really solid and good, if they would at least remove the steering wheel jiggle thing on the highway if you're clearly paying attention from the cabin camera, because I don't mind so much for city traffic because there's a lot of turning and it's relatively short driving, but on the highway it would be really, really nice to not have to sit there and keep jiggling the wheel constantly while you're doing that. So hopefully, with luck, by the time we get to 11.5 or something like that, we'll get to something where the person where you don't have to jiggle the steering wheel all the time and it could just use the camera, but we will see about that. So anyway, a lot of new stuff. The really, the meta news about this is it's finally gone out to the OG testers, which means it's finally left Tesla's employees and it's going out into the wild. Hopefully it will go really, really well, and Chuck and Omar and everybody else who's testing it now will have really, really good results for Tesla, and they will be able to roll it out wider to the rest of the populace very, very rapidly, and we'll all be super happy about that. And the one big bummer about it is that we will lose our absolute offsets for speed limits, which is a big bummer. Hopefully Tesla can put that back in again, but as with the rolling stop signs, I have a feeling once it's gone, it's gone. So we'll just have to deal with it, and that it sucks, but that's the way life is. So anyway, this is what happens when you deal with the government. The government gets her fingers into things that they maybe shouldn't be doing. Anyway, everybody have a lovely day. It is now just after 8 o'clock. I'm going to get dressed and go skiing for the rest of the day. So go Alta. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know, just a really, really quick note, I have another YouTube channel, Whole Nuts and Donuts, and I will put some skiing videos because people have asked about that. I'll put some skiing videos after I get home on that channel of Alta and Park City here, where I've been skiing around. And also I just posted a few pictures on Twitter. So check that stuff out, and everybody have a lovely day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.